Okay, so I want to thank you everyone for coming. I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Today's topic is getting started with Windows computers. My name is Susan Winkler, and I'm the technology librarian here at the Champaign Public Library. And I coordinate and teach most of our tech workshops. But today, I also have my colleague, Rebecca, who is going to be teaching today's workshop. And before I introduce Rebecca officially, I would like to mention some overall library information and then also go over some details about Zoom and how Zoom works. So as far as library information goes, the library is open our regular hours. That's Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday from 9 a.m. Friday from 9 to 6, Saturday from 9 to 6, and Sunday from 12 to 6. We are also available electronically, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. You can reach out through our chat function that's on our website, which is champaign.org. And then we can also answer emails. You can email us at librarian@champaign.org. And I'll put all this in the chat in just a moment too, so that you all have it with you. You can also call us, 217-403-2070, and we'll answer that phone whenever we're open. And we are also offering our Book a Librarian appointments for 15 minutes in person. And if you want to schedule them virtually through Zoom or Skype or a similar platform like that, or even over the phone, we can do them for 30 to 60 minutes. And that can be on any tech topic you want. So after today's session, if you feel like you would like to have more information about Windows computers and getting started with them, we can do a Book a Librarian appointment for you as well. So that you can fill out online. You go to champaign.org/book-a-librarian. And again, I'll put that in the chat in just a moment too. And you would fill out your request there. So finally, I'd like to go over how the Zoom environment works briefly. In the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to see something that looks a little bit like a speaker. That's your volume button. We do have everyone muted to start today's webinar today. But if anyone does have a question and they would like to verbally ask their question rather than type it in chat, we can unmute you. And the way to do that is going to be to raise your hand. And you'll find the raise hand in the middle bottom of your Zoom screen. You'll see a little, it looks like a hand. And if you tap that, that will be a raise hand, and that'll indicate to me that you have a question. And then I can unmute you and you can ask your question verbally if you'd like. There's also a little comment bubble there. That is the chat. So when I mentioned that I'm going to put all of this information in chat, that if you tap on that, it'll open your chat window, and then you can put it to the side of your screen so that you can also watch what's happening in chat if you like as we go through everything. So you can also hit the raise hand if you need more assistance with a technical question. Like if you don't hear Rebecca or me, you can raise your hand and we'll see if we can help troubleshoot that for you as well. Okay. All right. If there aren't any other questions about how Zoom works, again, you can put that right in there. We're going to try something a little different where we will unmute everyone if you do have a question when we get to the question portions. And we will have slides that say questions, and Rebecca will prompt for questions, and that's when you can ask them verbally or in the chat if you want. Or otherwise, just go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll get to them as we can. And what I'll do is I'll relay them verbally to Rebecca too. Okay. We are here to help. We will also be recording today's webinar, and hopefully we'll be able to hopefully we'll be able to put the recording online in the future so that people can rewatch it if they want, or if you know someone else that might want to take future workshops and wants to get caught up a little bit, they could watch this one beforehand too. Okay. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce today's instructor. That is Rebecca Van Dusen. She is a library associate here at the Champaign Public Library. And if you've taken any of our tech workshops before, you may have seen her either assisting or teaching. And I'd like to let her go ahead and take over.
All right, thank you, Susan. Okay, so for today, let me get into my PowerPoint. Let me share my screen. Let's get into, let me go back up to my front slide. There we go. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint?
We can't. or I
Okay,
can at
cool.
least.
Okay, so like Susan was saying before, we are covering Windows computers today. So when, that's not the right way to say it. Windows computers, Windows 10 is what I wanted to say. So we're covering the Windows 10 operating system. We have the Windows 10 operating system on all the computers at the library. So if you were to come in and use our computers, you would find that operating system. And then if you ever want to practice on our computers, you can always come in and practice. So let me get started. Oh, come on. There we go. So what is our agenda today? We are covering terminology and descriptions. So we're going to talk a little bit about what a computer is. We're going to talk about the elements of the desktop. And then we're also going to talk about how to manage windows and moving and resizing windows. We're going to talk about how to open a program. And then we're also going to get into the settings and help menu. So those are really helpful things when you are learning a computer. And then we're also going to cover how to start up and shut down your computer. Okay, so what's a computer? A computer is an electronic device for storing and processing data based on a program or logic sequence involving numbers and codes. So that sounds sort of jargony. Numbers and codes would be like just the language that computers speak in. And each computer has their own operating system. So we're covering Windows, but there's also like an Apple operating system and a couple other ones, but we won't go into that right now. There's kind of two different types of computers as well. So there is a desktop computer, which has a separate monitor, processor, keyboard, and mouse. So you might notice if you have a desktop computer, you might have that tower on the side, which might have your disk drive on it. You might have some ports where you can plug in like USB drives or memory cards. And then you'll also have the separate keyboard and mouse. And then the monitor is just the screen for your computer, which allows you to view things like your programs or any windows that you have open. And then a laptop computer is essentially just a computer that contains everything in one unit. So you'll have the monitor, keyboard, processor, and mouse, which is referred to as either a trackpad or a touchpad, all inside that one unit. So you don't need to have anything separated out. And then we might cover some information later where I touch on what's called a hard drive. So a hard drive is a component inside your computer that stores your digital content. So it will store things like your documents, your pictures, music, videos, programs, stuff like that. That would be stored on a hard drive. Now there is also what's called an external hard drive. So you might have a hard drive that you have for a backup. So you might back up your computer just for a fail-safe. A lot of people do that on an external hard drive. Some people use that just for storage. So that's another option too. And then a flash drive is also another component you might hear of pretty often. Flash drive is just like that pocket-sized data storage device that's kind of like able to fit in your pocket. What it's used for is kind of to transfer things from computer to computer or store things temporarily. I wouldn't recommend using that for long-term storage, but people often use it if they're going from one computer to another and they need files transferred between really quickly. You might also know it as a USB drive, a jump drive, a thumb drive. Those are pretty much the same thing. Okay, I'll stop right there for questions. Do we have any questions so far on terminology?
Doesn't look like we
Not
have
so
any
far.
questions so far. But again,
Okay.
if you do have questions, feel free to either raise your hand or go ahead and type it into the chat.
Yes.
And if you're unable to find the chat or the raised hand again, those are at the bottom of your screen. So while you're looking at Rebecca's screen, which has the PowerPoint, if you take your mouse and you go down to the bottom of the screen, you'll see something that says chat and then something that says raise hand. And we can use those as well. And then at the end, we'll unmute everyone, and then you all can ask your questions then too, if you like. But we want to make sure that you have a chance to ask questions as we go along too.
Yes. Don't feel like you're interrupting. I definitely want to field questions if you have them. I don't want to get too far past your question if you have one that's earlier or later or whatever.
Yeah, and we like to run these very conversational too, so.
Yes. Okay, so let me stop sharing my PowerPoint and then we'll actually get into the demo portion. So I'm actually going to demo in real time a laptop that we have. So let me change my video and get my laptop on. Okay, can you see that? Yes, I can see that on my end. Okay, so our next term is desktop. So desktop is this screen here. You'll see me moving my mouse. That's that screen there that is your primary display on your computer. So you might hear often like, just save it to your desktop, something like that. That's this first screen that you'll see when you log into your computer or you turn it on. And we'll go more into what lives on the desktop and what these things are too. So you might also see some things on the side here. Those are what are referred to as icons. So an icon could be something for a program, like for instance, Google Chrome, or it might be for something like a folder or a file. So we have a couple folders here on the desktop that are their own icons. And those are on the computer desktop just because we want them easily accessed. So if you want something that you use often, people will often put their icons on the desktop so they can get to it quickly. Okay. And next thing is a window. So let me open up Google Chrome. And we'll talk about how to open a program too in just a second. Let me minimize that a little bit. Okay, so a window is just a area of the screen that displays information for a specific program that's independent of other parts of the screen. So you'll see I can move this window around, and we'll talk about how to do that too. But this is independent of my desktop screen because I've opened up a program. And you might have a window that opens up when you're looking for files, so you might be into a folder that has its own window. So if we open up like our recycle bin, that will open up in a window as well. So that's just its own kind of thing that's separate from the desktop. And on the bottom of your desktop is what is called the taskbar. So at the very bottom, you'll see a bar that's darker than the desktop. That is your taskbar. And your taskbar, Windows refers to it as a stationary strip of icons used to access frequently used programs like internet browsers or other Microsoft products. So in our taskbar down here, we have internet browser. I believe that's Microsoft Edge. And then we have our file explorer icon. And then a couple other icons are here that we've put in our taskbar. Now, the cool thing about your desktop and about your taskbar is that they can be customizable. So you can put any icon you want down here that's for any program you use. So say we want to put Google Chrome down there because we use Google Chrome often. We can do that pretty easily. If we right-click on Google Chrome, a window opens. We have some options. And then if I go to Pin to Taskbar, you might not be able to see that too well, but it says Pin to Taskbar. So if I click on that, now my icon is shown up down here in my taskbar, and I can access it that way. So if I click on that, then that'll open up Google Chrome. So it's kind of just a good way to have stuff you use frequently. That way you don't have to dig too far into your computer to get something. Okay, and let's talk about this thing on the right of the taskbar here. It's called the system tray. So this little, let me see if I can get a little closer to that too. Bear with me while I zoom in. This is actually in real time. Let me focus it a little more too. Does that look okay, Susan?
Yep, that looks better.
Does it look, is it too dark, too
Mhm.
bright?
You might try going a little bit darker, like maybe 1 there. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. That looks better.
So your system tray is in the very right of your taskbar, and it's sort of similar because it does have icons like the taskbar does, but these are quick access for system functions. So for instance, you'll see my time. This is incorrect, so don't go by that. It's not 3:15. If I click on that, that'll pop up another window. Let me see if I can just zoom out just a tiny bit. That has my clock and calendar info.
You might have to go and make it darker again. Yeah.
And then I have my volume settings here. So if I click that, I can use this slider bar to change my volume. I also have my internet connection. So if I click on this, what looks kind of like a fan, you'll recognize that as the Wi-Fi or internet symbol. So if I click on that, let me make it a little darker. That is how I connect to internet. So say I'm at the library and I wanted to connect to the library's Wi-Fi, I could do that from this menu. Let me click back out. And there's also a couple of other settings in here too, or other functions, I should say. So I have my battery for my laptop. Since I'm on a laptop, I have a battery setting here. If you're on a desktop, you probably won't have that icon. So this is where I can control my power modes and my battery settings. And then there's also a little arrow that's pointing up, which is just another menu of items that I can access for system functions. So for instance, if I have a USB drive plugged in here, I could access it from here or eject it. That should show up in that menu. And then on the very right here, you'll see if I hover over it with my mouse, it says 1 new notification. That is my notification window for my computer. So if I click on that, let me zoom out just a little bit. That's just some notifications for my computer. Like for instance, I might have an update that I need to do. You'll find that from that notifications window there. And furthermore, I can also get into my Bluetooth, like say for instance, I needed to connect to Bluetooth, I could get into Bluetooth. I can manage my notifications. So that's another menu I definitely recommend exploring. So let me click back on that. Any questions about the desktop or the system tray or the taskbar so far? Let me get back out here to the regular screen.
Yes, one moment. Rebecca, we do have someone with a question.
Oh, sure.
Someone asks how to move a taskbar, the taskbar, and to a window. So, so the taskbar can be moved actually. I don't know if you want to show that.
Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Let me see. So I think if we click on, let's see, I'm here just on my desktop, and if I right click on this empty space on my taskbar, I have some options that come up. And I believe if I click on this where it says lock the taskbar, and then I should be able to, I think.
Yeah, you can switch the position of the taskbar and put it at the top or at the sides too if you want. And you would do it that way.
Okay, here we go. So this is what you do. You go to right click on it, do taskbar settings, and then it should open the taskbar settings. And then it looks like it's near, here we go. So it says taskbar location on screen, and then I can change it. So say I wanted it on the top, I could click top, and now you'll see it's jumped up to the top there. So if I exit out, now my taskbar is on the top.
Okay, and actually we're also wondering if you could show us how to move things to pin to the taskbar again.
Yes,
example,
I can
like
show that.
if you wanted to take Microsoft Edge and remove it from the taskbar and then put it back on the taskbar.
Yes, so let's do that. So I want to take off Edge. I'm going to right click on my icon. Again, this could be any icon that you want to add or subtract from your taskbar. So I'm going to right click on it. And then I just click where it says unpin from taskbar. with my left mouse button. And now it's gone from my taskbar. And then if we wanted to add it back, I can either do that from my start menu and find my icon. So we're going to go over start menu too, but let me find my Microsoft Edge. Here we go. So I found it in my start menu. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go where it says more and then pin to taskbar. And now it's back on my taskbar right here. And I believe I can move these around if I want them in a different order by just clicking and dragging them. Does that answer your question?
Okay, and we do have another question. I'm going to go ahead and allow this folk. Okay, let me go ahead and I'm going to give you permission to talk, and then all you have to do is, oops, you should be able to. No, let me hit more here and say.
I think she just has to unmute.
Yes. So if you see a button where, yep, perfect. Okay, now if you want to, you should be able to go ahead and speak your question if you'd like. If you can. And if not, we can go ahead and if you can type it in the chat, we could also do that way too. You should have plenty to talk. Yes. Maybe. No. Okay.
We can come back to it too.
Yeah, if you can't hear us, we can come back to it, and we'll unmute everyone at the end, and then you could ask your question then too.
Okay. Let me go ahead and cover the start menu, because that might cover maybe the question.
Sure.
So let's do that. So our start menu is down here at the very bottom left. Let me brighten that up a little bit. And you'll see it looks like a Windows icon. So if I hover over it with my mouse, it says start. It might not be too obvious because I'm farther back. But if I click on that, then that's going to open my start menu. So my start menu is where all of my programs live, and that's where I can get to things like my settings, my power settings. I can even get to files like my documents or my pictures. So the start menu is a great place to go if you're looking for a program. So I can scroll through this menu here with either my mouse, or I can hover over this little scroll bar here and click and drag that to go through my menu. So you'll see the programs are listed alphabetically. And you'll also see on the right side, there's some programs here too. Any questions about the start menu? Okay, I think we're good.
Not so far.
So I definitely recommend customizing your experience so that it's working for you. So put stuff on your desktop that you use often. Like I access the internet every day, so I definitely want to make sure I have an internet browser on my desktop. Some people put in folders that they use pretty often. I don't like to keep my desktop too cluttered because then it's harder for me to work, but I definitely make sure that it works for me. And then same thing with the taskbar. So these are things that you can definitely make work for you. Okay, so let's talk about opening a program because we covered how to get to them. So let's talk about opening a program. So there's a couple ways to do it. First, like I was saying before, you can go to your start menu and scroll until you find your program. And then once I find it, let's open up Word. So let's go down to Word. So I see Word 2016, so I just click it once. And then it should open. There we go. So now I've got Word open. I can also double click on an icon from my desktop. So if I wanted to open a program on my desktop, I could double click it. So say I wanted to open up Google Chrome, I could double click that, and it should open up the program in a new window. And you can also search for a program in this search bar down on your taskbar. So if I click on that, that's going to let me type. So say I wanted to search for PowerPoint.
Rebecca, you may want to adjust the light just a little bit there.
Is that better?
Go a little darker.
Darker?
Yeah. There you go. I think that's a little better.
Better? Okay. So let me do that again. So I'm down here in my search bar. I'm clicking on it, and then I can type. So if I start typing.
It's really once you start typing that it
I think it just
fun.
happens so fast.
Yeah.
So as I start typing, you'll see things come up. So I'm seeing my best match for my type, and then I'm seeing things like settings. So it thinks I maybe want to get into my power settings. But since we want PowerPoint, I'll just click on that, and that'll open up PowerPoint. So that should open up in a new window. And there's also a way to open up a program from your desktop without double clicking. So if I want to open up Google Chrome, but I'm not too good at double clicking, I can right click on it and then click open with my left mouse. And I just need to hit that once. So it definitely takes some practice to do the double click. That's a skill that takes time to learn. But an easy way around that is to just right click and then press open with your left click. Definitely practice doing that. Any questions about opening a program? Let me open up Google Chrome. Okay, let's talk about how to manage the windows once they're open. So when we open a window or a program, it opens in its own window, and there are ways that we can manage that window. So we can move the window, we can resize the window, and we can even hide the window away while we do other things. So let's talk about moving first. So up at the top of your window, whenever you open something, there should be a blank space in what's called the title bar. So up here, you'll see that kind of gray space there. That's an area we can actually click and hold so that we can move our window. So if I click and hold with my left mouse button, then I can actually start moving my window around. So this is good if you had your window off to one side and you were working over here on another window. It's useful to have the ability to move windows around. Let me open up Word so you can see what the Word's title bar looks like. Let me open a blank document. So Word has a title bar too. Let me make that a little brighter. Up at the top there in that blue space, that's my title bar. So I'm not clicking on a tab, I'm clicking right above it in this blank space. So then I can move my window. Definitely take some practice with that too, because it takes some practice to click on the right area and to move your window where you want it. Okay. So you can also resize your window. So this is pretty big on my desktop, and maybe I want to get that smaller so I can open up another window. So you'll notice when I move my mouse over the edges of my window, it'll change from a regular point to an arrow with two heads. So that'll happen if I move on the side as well, or even in my corners. So to change my size of my window, I'll make sure that I'm at the corner so my mouse changes, and then click with my left mouse button and drag while I'm holding down. So that will resize my window. I can do it on the edges too. If you're doing it on a corner, I recommend using the bottom corners, because if you use the top right corner, it's possible you might accidentally close your window when you don't want to. So if you're doing a corner, I recommend the bottom corner. And that's an easy way to do it without worrying about closing it. Speaking of closing a window, up at the right corner, can you see that okay?
Yeah, you might want to darken the
see
screen
if
just a little bit and then autofocus.
Does that look okay?
That's a little better.
I can zoom in too. You think that would work better?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and try zooming in a little bit more? and then autofocus. And then take the light down just a little. There we go. That's much better.
Okay, cool. So at the corner, let me brighten that one more. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
You'll see 3 icons on the corner of your window. So there's an X icon, there's a square icon, and then there's what looks like a minus sign. So if I click on my X icon, that's going to close my window. And it might close my program too, so be careful around your X. If I click on my square icon, that's my maximize button. So let me go and zoom back out so we can see what it does. So if I click on that square button, that's going to maximize my window to fill the screen. So if I click on it, now my window is taking up the entire screen, so I can't see any of my desktop behind it. If I want to get back to where it was before, I can just click that same icon and it will jump back to what size it was before. And if I click on my minus icon, that's my minimize button. So if I click that, that's going to minimize my window. It's not going to close it, it's just going to hide it in my taskbar. So down here, you'll notice I have Google Chrome, and it's got like a little line under it. That means I have a window open, but it's just minimized. So if I hover over Google Chrome, you'll see it right there pop up. If I click it, then it will open it again. That's a good way if you were working with something on your desktop or you were working with another window and you kind of wanted to get it out of your way for a second. Click on that minimize button and it will just go down there for as long as you want it. And it won't close anything, it'll just hide it. Any questions about Windows?
Yes, one moment. Okay, we've got a raised hand. Okay, so let's go ahead and tap on the ask to unmute here. Okay. Okay, so you should, okay.
There.
There you go. There you go. Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah. How do you get rid of a page when it doesn't have a little X up in the corner? Sometimes you're doing something and an ad comes up and it doesn't have an exit X. And
Usually
I don't know what to hit to get rid of them.
Usually they should have, it might not look exactly the same as the X in our corner, but usually within the ad there is a small X. It might be, sometimes ads are kind of not cool because they kind of hide the way it looks, so it's not noticeable, so you don't close it. But I believe if you would right click on your window and you hit close, then that should close it for you.
Okay, thank you.
That'll close the entire window. So that'll take care of the ad for you.
Yes. So again, you would just right click on it and then hit close with your left mouse button.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Go ahead. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'll lower your hand and then Rebecca, go ahead and here.
Let me close this window. I think we covered everything with the system tray already, so I won't go into that again. Let's talk about the File Explorer, because the File Explorer is a really good tool for finding things on your computer. So let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on the bottom of my screen. Bear with me, sorry, I'm taking you on a little roller coaster ride here. Okay, let me brighten up the screen just a tad. Is that okay, or is it too bright?
Yep, that's okay.
Okay, so at the bottom of my taskbar, or I guess I shouldn't say taskbar because that's already at the bottom of my screen on my taskbar is a little icon that kind of looks like a folder, like a manila folder. That is my File Explorer. So if you're not in Windows 10, you might be in an older version that's called Windows Explorer. It's the same idea. File Explorer is the way that you manage your files on your computer. So you can browse your folders and files. So for instance, you might have your documents that you can look through or your pictures. So let's go ahead and open the File Explorer. Let me zoom back out. Sorry, bear with me. I'm going to make it less bright as well.
Yeah. So what Rebecca's using right now is something called an Elmo, which is a document camera that basically gives you a live video feed of what we're trying to demonstrate. So there is a little bit of fine tuning that we go through each time to make it work, because it's not as easy to just have a live demo of the desktop computer screen broadcasting through Zoom.
Yes,
So.
Zoom doesn't let us make things easy, unfortunately. Okay, does that look okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let
Yes.
me make it just a little taller. Okay, so let me get back into File Explorer from the beginning. I can click here on my taskbars icon.
I'm going to go ahead and do a focus. Yep, there you go.
Or I can search in my search bar. So let me search for file. So once I start typing file, it even comes up, but I can type it all out. Explorer. And then I can just click on it from here, and then it will open my File Explorer. So you'll see that I have different things on here, like I have a documents folder. It's kind of weird looking still. Let me see if I can get it a little better looking. That looks a little better. There we go. So we're going to delve deeper into this also with our class on file organization and management, but I want to touch on it too because it's definitely important for someone who's learning Windows. So again, you'll see a folder that says desktop, documents. These are where things can be saved in your computer. So if I click on documents, then I can get into some folders I might have in there or files I might have in there.
Rebecca, can you go ahead and zoom in just if you can, zoom in just a little bit more and then refocus if you can.
Yeah, it's getting a little pixely.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Better?
A little better. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It's not like the best situation ever, but I hope it helps. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so there are also things on the side here, which is your navigation pane. So I can navigate to different things like my desktop folder. So my desktop folder has everything I have on the desktop. I have a pictures folder, and I also have what's called this PC. So this PC is where things like things that are on my hard drive live, essentially. So like we talked about before, the documents, the pictures, and even if I were to plug in a USB drive or a flash drive, that would show up under this PC so I could access it. And then these quick access things up here at the top are what I've accessed recently. So these might change or they might look different on your computer depending on what you've gotten into. So that's a good way to explore what you have on your computer. I definitely recommend clicking through and seeing what's on yours, because you might find things that you didn't know were on there or things that you were looking for. And you can also search too. So if I go back to this PC and I click on my search, I can type in a file that I may be looking for or maybe a drive that I have plugged in. So I definitely recommend playing around with the File Explorer. Any questions so far about File Explorer?
No questions so far.
Okay. So let me exit out of there. Let me go out a little bit too. Okay. So next thing we're going to talk about is our settings menu. So we can get to our settings menu from the start menu. If I click on the start menu, and then there's an icon that kind of looks like a gear or a little cog in a machine that's my settings icon. So if I click on that, that's going to open up my settings menu. There's also another way to get into your settings. If you search for settings in your search bar, that should also get you into your settings. And then there's a bunch of different things you can customize. For instance, you can get in here to customize your display. You can change your volume. You can connect to internet, so you'll see a network and internet setting. You can also change things that have to do with like your personalization. For instance, you can change your wallpaper on your desktop. You can change things about your taskbar. There's really a lot of things in your settings menu. You can also search for a setting too. So for instance, if we wanted to make our mouse bigger, we can actually do that from here. If we start typing, so I'm typing in mouse because I want to change something to do with my mouse. So I can see all these things start popping up. For instance, I see change your mouse settings, change mouse pointer size. So let's do that. I want to change my pointer size. So I'm going to click here. And then I can change my size of my pointer.
Can you go ahead and autofocus that, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Better. Makes it a little better. Yeah.
I can change my mouse color. Like I had it on black, but I could change it to white, or I can change it to a different color even. So I can change it to purple if I wanted to. And then let me go back home here. So I recommend going through and seeing what is possible in your settings. I can also search for a setting too in my taskbar. So if I click down here and say I'm searching for something because I want to change my taskbar settings. So I type in taskbar. Then I start getting a bunch of stuff here that pops up under the settings heading, which will bring me to my taskbar stuff. So I have, okay, select which icons appear on taskbar. I can turn icons on and off. I can go into my taskbar notification area settings. So there's really a bunch of stuff that pops up as you start typing. Let me go back here. Any questions so far about settings?
No questions so far.
Okay. So let me exit out of that. There's also a help menu in your Windows computer. So if I click on my search bar, I can actually, there's a number of ways to get help for Windows 10. Let me show you a couple. So if I click on the search bar and I type in help, I'm directed to this Get Help app. So if I click on that, that'll actually bring me out to the internet where I can search for stuff. Let's see, it looks like ours is set up differently. Yours might look different, but there is usually a way you can search on your Get Help app. There's also a way to search for help. So like we searched with settings, you can search for help too down here. Like say I wanted to change my mouse pointer size again, and I didn't know how. I could just type that in, and here we go. I can change my mouse pointer size. So let me switch it.
Can you do that again and autofocus on it?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Is that okay? Let me get back.
Yeah, just from the first part here. If you can darken it so we can actually see what you're typing down in the screen. Yeah.
Is that better?
It's a little better, yeah.
So I'm just searching mouse because I wanted to change my mouse pointer size. Even if I wasn't sure about what to type, I could type pointer size. I recommend playing around with the search menu. And then it would bring me out to the settings. And then I also recommend going to the support page that Microsoft has. So it's support.microsoft.com. And let me get out there real quick so you can see what that looks like too. Let me bring this up a little bit. So if I go to support.microsoft, oops, if I could spell .com, then it's got me.
Can you make that full screen?
Yes.
And then focus. Thank you.
So this is a good page to go to if you can't find out how to do it from your computer. So you can search your question here. So do we have a suggestion of maybe something we can search for?
Would someone like to post a suggestion in chat of something you've been hoping to find out how to do? Or what to change?
If not, I have a couple examples too.
Yeah. You could also raise your hand if you want to suggest something. No? Okay.
I'll do an example.
Okay.
So say we weren't sure about, this is something we covered, but say we weren't sure about how to connect to the internet. Oh, how to connect to Wi-Fi. I'm gonna hit enter. So I just searched how to connect to Wi-Fi, and now it's got me to a page where it says connect to Wi-Fi network in Windows 10. So then it's gonna give you a breakdown of how to get connected. And then it will also bump you out to different pages that have topics that might cover that. So I definitely recommend going to support.microsoft.com and kind of browsing what they have. So they have things about how to use Edge, how to use Microsoft Office, and let me see, they should have a Windows 10. I think we did this the other day. Here we go. So what I did from the home page is I scrolled down and I went to more Microsoft products, and then I scrolled down again, and then you'll see a Windows 10 here, and they have just different topics you can click through that they have posted. But I think an easy way to look for stuff is to just use that search function. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you ever have any questions that aren't answered. And of course, you can always call us at the library too. We'll definitely be able to help. Any questions about the help menu or the settings menu?
So the settings menu is also somewhere where if you notice that your time is wrong on your own laptop, you can go into the settings and go to the time and date, and you can reset that stuff too.
Yes.
We actually can't do it on this particular, because this is a demo computer that has some certain restrictions. So we could try to change it, but it would probably tell us that we couldn't.
Yes,
you could try
I think I
and see.
tried earlier and it didn't let me.
Yeah.
So you'll see I typed in time, just something really simple, and it has an option to change the time zone, date and time settings, and then there's a bunch afterwards that come up as well.
So for example, when daylight saving time happens, and your computer, like your phone normally automatically adjusts to it. Your laptop may, your desktop may, but they might not unless they're connected to the internet. So you may have to connect them to the internet, and then they'll update. But if it doesn't automatically do it, here's a place where you can look at it and change it manually.
Yes. So the settings is your best friend.
Yes, system, yep, and that's part of the system settings. So in this Windows setting, you'd go to system and you'd find it in there. And like Rebecca said, you can always search, which is a great way to find things there.
Okay. Any questions so far about that? I'll cover the starting up and shutting down next.
No questions so far.
Okay. So if I click on my start menu, that's going to get me to my power settings. So on the bottom corner, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. It's hard because it's on the other side of the screen. There we go.
You may have to adjust your lighting too.
Yes. Does that look okay?
Better, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I've opened up my start menu, and these icons right above my Windows icon, you'll see this power. That's where I get into my power settings. So you'll see that little icon that looks like a circle with a dash pointing straight up. That's kind of the universal symbol of power. So you might see that on your laptop or your desktop computer. If I click on that, that's going to give me a few options. I can put my computer to sleep, I can shut down my computer, or I can restart my computer. So the difference between sleep and shut down is that sleep just essentially goes into low power mode. It stays on, but it's kind of maybe got the screen turned off. It's not completely shut down in that your apps are still open. If you were to shut down, that's going to close all of your apps and turn off the PC completely so that it's not using any power. And my restart is just going to start, it's going to turn off the computer and then it's going to turn it back on. So you might need to restart your computer if you've just done a software update, or if you're having trouble with it. Sometimes we recommend to restart your computer just to reset everything and get it back to baseline. And if I hover over it, it'll kind of give me like a little breakdown of what it does.
Yeah. I often put my laptop to sleep when it's in the living room because I have 2 cats, and the cats like to sleep on the warm laptops and getting cat hair in the keys is not so great. So I'll usually shut the lid, which puts my laptop into sleep mode. So
Yes.
then when I return to it, I can open it back up and all of my stuff that I was working on is still there, but then the cats haven't been laying on it.
Yes, and that's a good point too. If I were to just get up from my computer and close the lid, like with the laptop, I would just close it. That actually does not shut it down. So that would just put it to sleep. So you're still using power. So just be aware of that. To completely shut it down, I definitely recommend going to your start menu and then doing shutdown instead of just closing it physically. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay, and let me get back to my PowerPoint, unless anybody has any questions or something I can help demo on the Elmo.
Yeah. Do we want to go ahead and open it up for any questions now, and we can go ahead and unmute everybody?
Yeah, let's do
and then
that.
we can just take turns in case anybody has questions. Because that way
Yes.
everybody will have a chance. That way before you've shut down the computer, if we need to demo something for someone.
I think that sounds like a good idea.
All right. So we'll go ahead and unmute everyone. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone. And then if you want to, feel free to speak. If you don't want to, you can go ahead and mute again. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add everybody up here. So I'm going to get everybody here. Okay. And then if you have any questions, feel free. Once you see that unmute button, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then we can let everybody talk
it
if you
should
want.
pop up in another window that says the
Yes.
host would like you to unmute your microphone.
Okay, so we do have a question. Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and lower the hand, but you can go ahead and say your question out loud.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Recently, I did an update with Microsoft, and then when I went to go and use Chrome, it's like all my passwords were not available anymore to automatically be there, and a lot of my items that I had like on a taskbar were not there anymore. So I just wasn't sure what happened. It's been a real problem.
I am not familiar with that, but let me see if I can find out.
So a lot of times too, when you do, you never know for sure what's going to happen with an update, and a lot of times some of that personalization that you've kind of built in, you sometimes have to rebuild that. So if it's a situation where it's down at your taskbar that you've lost those icons that you normally have down there, if you still have if the programs are still on the computer, you can go ahead and do what Rebecca just showed, where you go ahead and pin them back to the taskbar. For something like personalization that comes from like your browser, you can go into your browser settings. So Rebecca, if you'll go down to the type here to search and go ahead and put in browser down there. You can set a default browser to be different than Edge. Edge is the native, what we call the native browser, which basically comes with the computer that you buy that has Windows 10. But like you said, you had downloaded Chrome and wanted Chrome to be your, if you want Chrome to be your default, you can go in and change that default browser. So if you see here where it says, yep, like choose the default browser, you can go in there and change it and make it Chrome again if you want.
There
But
might be like a password manager in Google Chrome as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe it's possible you need to update Chrome too. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I would try it. And if it's passwords, specifically the passwords, that's something that comes from something called autofill too.
Yeah, that's what I lost all my autofills.
Yeah, and that is something you can check your settings in Chrome to see if you can get the, once you've, because basically sometimes when you update, it loses the history of those things, and then you have to go into the autofill and then turn that back on.
I just really hate doing updates.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They're very important for making sure that your computer's still running properly and everything too. But yeah, sometimes it can mess with other stuff.
Yeah.
Too.
Thank you.
Okay. Got another question over here. Okay. So we'll go ahead and see if we can. Okay. Joanne, do you want to go ahead and see if we can get your question? Can you hear us okay? Okay. I'm not sure if I don't think we can hear you. So if you have a chance to type in the chat, you might try posing your question through the chat. So if you were to go down to the bottom of your screen and tap on that little chat icon bubble and then type it in the chat, that might work. We do have you unmuted. So if you have a microphone or if you want to just talk to your computer, you might be able to get it that way too.
Yeah, sometimes computers have that built-in microphone.
Yeah. So if you want to play with that, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and move on, and then I'll keep working with you on that and see if we can do that. Okay. And then we've got a question here. Is there a fee for a password manager? The computer offers LastPass. So
I think it's probably LastPass, I think, is probably being advertised to you. But as far as I know, your computer should have its own password manager that you don't have to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah. And and again, that's all personal preference. Whether or not you want to have your passwords managed, or you want to have the autofill, or have that be something that takes care of that. That's all personal preference. So it's going to depend on what you find to be the easiest, what you find to be the most useful for you. For example, for me, I don't have any passwords memorized or any autofill memorized because every time I have to type it in, it's challenging me to remember it, which actually helps me remember them. But everyone's going to be different on that, and it comes down to personal preference.
I would agree with the same thing. Again, just computers are customizable in the way that you work, so it really just depends on how you like to work. Computers sometimes will also advertise things to you, like you might see like Norton antivirus advertised to you. Doesn't mean you necessarily need it or want it, but sometimes they do that.
Mm-hmm. And while we don't personally here at the library, we would not recommend one virus protection over another virus protection, or antivirus software versus another software. There are companies out there that do that, like Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports is a great place to go, and we do have access to that here at the library. And you would have that with a Champaign card, or if you came into the building, you could use one of our machines to do it, or have the library staff help you. And we could look to see, and I know they have done antivirus software. We could look to see if they've evaluated any password management systems. A lot of phones, there are a lot of password manager companies out there that do apps for phones too, and it's good to evaluate all of those before you necessarily pick one too. And doing that research is part of what I think is the most important thing to help you pick which one you're gonna like the most. And again, the library wouldn't recommend a specific one, but we could help you research them.
Yes.
Okay.
I also want to display the last slide that I have of my additional resources. So places that you can go for support or to learn more about Windows 10. So let me pull that up right now. Let me get back into Zoom and share my screen. Share. Okay. Come on. There we go. Can you see that slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I can pass along my PowerPoint, which is what I've used as I've been demoing to walk everyone through everything. And then I also have the links on that PowerPoint too. So if you want that, you can always email me. I'll put my email up at the end of class too. But these links I recommend for learning more. So you'll see the Microsoft support page. We also often recommend this source called GCF Learn Free. And it's a free resource that you can use to learn things about technology or software or hardware. So they have a Windows Computers version. I guess version isn't the right word. Windows Computers, like kind of it's a course or like a guide, I would say. And then LinkedIn Learning is free with your Champaign card. So if you have that, you can actually take classes on LinkedIn. So you might have a Windows class that you wanted to take on there. I guess it's not really a class, it's more of like a video.
Yeah, it's a video course.
And then I also put in a keyboard shortcuts for Windows 10. So there are a few useful keyboard shortcuts, and that's on that link there at the bottom. So for instance, like you might use a shortcut to open a program or to close a window. So I recommend going on that link too. Let me put up some upcoming classes as well. So next week, same time, we're going to have organizing and storing files. So Susan's teaching that class, and we'll talk more about the File Explorer and just how to do things like moving files into folders and stuff like that. And then we'll also have an Intro to Internet on the 29th. And then you can always check our calendar at champaign.org/events, and we have events in the future posted as well. And then this is my email here, and you can always call me too at my phone, leave a message if you have a question too. It's rvandusen@champaign.org. So feel free to email me if you want the PowerPoint or if you have any other questions too. I'm always up for answering questions.
Yes.
I suppose that's why I am doing this job.
Yes, that's why we are in this profession, right? And if we don't know the answers, we'll try to find someone who does.
Yes.
So.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
you.
I'm happy to stay a little bit if anybody has any other questions.
Absolutely. We can stick around for a little bit and answer other questions too if needed, or if you have any. And then if I can find Joanne, I don't know. Joanne, if you want, we can try to do with the mic if you want, or you can try to see if you can post a question in the chat, or if you want, you can reach out to us via email too, and we can hopefully answer the question that you may have.
Okay.
And if anybody else, if you'd like, feel free to raise your hand, and we can unmute you and have you ask your questions too.
I also want to put up this slide too. It's the link to Book a Librarian.
Oh yes, I'll put that in the chat as well.
You can also get to our live chat on our website, champaign.org. So you'll actually talk to someone live over chat. Or of course, you can always email us too, and we can work that way.
How are you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
Yeah. So yeah, we're happy to help out. Let us know what we can do. Again, those book a librarians, you know, we can do 15 minutes in person. We could also do 30 minutes to an hour online through Zoom or another option of your choice, or even over the phone. If you have a question, we can try to help you over the phone too. So, okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. And I'll go ahead.
There you are.
I was gonna say I'll go ahead and put my video up as well. So yeah, if you have any questions, we're happy to help. That's why we're here. We do have a tech workshop page on our website too, which is champaign.org/tech-workshops, which also lists the upcoming classes and then some other resources too.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put that in the chat as well. Okay. Alrighty, and then again, yeah, if you want, we're happy to share the PowerPoint. We'll hope to put the video up probably on our YouTube channel. So if anyone's interested in the video, please just send us an email and let us know. We'll send, and then we can send you the link to it. That is what we're doing currently, and we are putting those up with captions too. So for anyone who would like to be able to read the captions as well. So.
Yeah. And again, feel free to email me if you want the PowerPoint. I can send that out to you really quick.
Yes. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, and then you sent me all that stuff.
Nope. Okay. Well, I think we'll go ahead and end our webinar then. Thank you everyone for attending today.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.